Hello, I hope everybody that is in the Midwest is enjoying the stifling heat. Those of you that are not in the Midwest, I hope that it's a little cooler where you happen to be. So, I just want to make a short video here going over the past week in state and local government and then giving you some directions for this week. Um, we finished a book, the Bowman and Kearney book. I am very curious to hear your thoughts about that, your feedback about that. So if you have any, I guess I'll start a little message board topic where you can weigh in on what you thought of the text. I did change that text from what I used in the past, and I think it is an improvement, but it was a lot of material. So no need to respond to that section or to that question unless you want to. But I am going to go ahead and put that on there because I am curious if you like the book. We now move on to a classic, Paul Peterson's City Limits. One thing you'll notice about Paul Peterson's text is that it is very old. 1981. I know that it's older than a lot of us. But it's a classic for a reason. There's a lot of points in there that read as fairly obvious about what the goals of cities are, the way local municipalities compete with one another, the way that labor and capital can move between cities and that people actually react to where they choose to live or locate their business based on local policies. And I really think it ties together some of these ideas about public admin being serving the purpose of maximizing the quality of life in a place and why that can actually have an impact far beyond individuals, but also the total economic health of the city. That said, a lot of what Peterson says is controversial. He definitely views a lot of I've met the guy at life through economic motivations and believes that people, municipalities, organizations are motivated by economic interests. But I'll let you read the book. It's a little bit of a difficult book, I understand that, and I urge you to read it with a critical eye. One of the questions I'll ask you later on is the extent to which his work is still relevant. But I urge you to think about your own experiences and whether or not these issues that Peterson was discussing in 1981 are still relevant to what you're seeing in either your career or studies, wherever you happen to be at professionally. All right, so I got a little ahead of myself there. Let's look back. What's the proper form of government? That's kind of a loaded question, and I really enjoyed your message board answers. I think I have the statistics in front of me. That was record participation, so people went above and beyond what was required for this class. But there definitely seems to be a preference for the council manager system in general, and that didn't surprise me at all. We have some folks in this class who are already executives in city government or local municipal government. We have a lot of folks in class whose ambition is to be an executive in local government. And we certainly come from a tradition in Masters of Public Admin programs, especially ones like UW-Oshkosh. Other examples, University of Nebraska, Northern Illinois University, University of Nebraska-Omaha. I say University of Nebraska. I supposed to be University of Kansas. I think I said that. But there's a handful of these MPA programs that have been around for a long time, and UWO has been around for a long time comparably, but also is very focused on local government. So what that means is that a disproportionate number of municipalities in places like Wisconsin do have the council manager form of government, and part of the reason is because it's been something that we've trained. It's been kind of ingrained in our culture here. That said, it's not perfect, and there's always this tension between democracy and direct democracy. So are we hiring an executive the way we do a governor or a president, and performance? In other words, should we have somebody that actually knows how to manage, that has certain credentials and certain hard skills they bring to the task? Is that something that is worth sacrificing that direct democracy for? And I keep using the word democracy. Remember, we elect city council members, and we also appoint, they're the ones that hire the city manager. And the theory goes that you can certainly vote out the city council if you have an issue with the city manager. But broadly, there's not much else I can add to the debate that you all had. It was great. I did weigh in a few times. But I think of kind of my default cop out answer is that it really needs to be a reflection of the preferences and the values of the governed. So a government's only going to be as effective as it is legitimate, and a big part of legitimacy is public acceptance. So many places are on balance accepting of a hired manager system and the benefits it can bring. Some not so much. And it's always interesting when we have turnover in city councils and turnover in city executives, like city managers, where there can be public debates. I was talking with a colleague down in Northern Illinois this week, and there's the city where that university is located, DeKalb, Illinois, is in the midst of a city manager transition, and there has been a couple things going on. A public debate over whether or not they should ditch that system and go back to an elected system. And the argument there was coming from the public, I should say a small aspect of the public, saying that we ought to have our vote. It shouldn't be somebody we don't have the privilege to vote out of office that gets to make decisions about our day to day. This colleague of mine, it's Elisa Shopman, if you look her up, she's more of a nonprofit scholar, but she sent me this great letter, and actually I'll send that to you. This about the debate over about the community debate in DeKalb, focusing on how easy it was to be a city manager. And this letter to the editor that came through that's basically said that why are we going to hire somebody that makes this much money to be the city manager? I can do that for half the price. I've worked in the private sector. I understand how to do it. It's an easy job. Nobody could do worse than the last one. So let's make it happen. And it gets really at this fundamental tension between, I guess, the public understanding of what local government does and what local government actually does. So maybe there's an issue of communication. Maybe there's an issue of politics bleeding into administration. So that kind of the myth of the public admin dichotomy is exactly that, a myth. But regardless, it's a complex issue, and this is a very, very long-winded way of me saying that I really think that you nailed it in your message board activity. And I want to give particular thanks to some of the posters who were so willing to share their own personal experience, and those that were willing to take a contradictory position, because that's also important too. If you were able to read the Jared Carr article I sent around that summarizes the body of literature regarding professional management of municipalities, you'll notice that one of the areas where he calls for more research is that link between performance. So there's a lot of discussion about the level of conflict on municipal councils when you have an appointed executive as opposed to an elected executive. But the one kind of thing missing is whether or not we can actually show a generalizable performance advantage. There's no doubt that in certain municipalities it's a huge advantage improvement. But to the extent to which that's generalizable, there's still a little bit of a black box there in the literature. So anyways, complex issue, a great issue. Moving on. So I have received, I think, from just about everybody, at least their first reaction paper, and by and large, those were very good. Most of you either got a response from me where I thought you nailed it, and I let you know that. Many of you might have received a note from me saying that I encourage you to go a little deeper into the kind of the reaction piece. And that's not me trying to be critical. It's really hard to try to summarize a long list of readings briefly. And I really want you to try to focus on that. Make the summary really brief, paragraph or two, and have the balance of your reaction paper be just that, your reaction paper. What did it make you think of? Does it relate to something you've learned in another class? Does it relate to something professionally? It's really this next level of critical thought and trying to transfer that into a very abbreviated document, which is a challenge. I understand that. But I can say universally you're all sitting in very good shape with the reaction papers. They were by and large exactly what I was looking for. So please keep up that good work. If you do have any questions about either the reaction papers or about the final assignment, which I realize is still a ways off, but you do have a copy of that now, please do let me know. So the task for this week is going to be relatively simple. Make sure you read Peterson chapters 1 through 5. And then all I want you to do, because it's the 4th of July, is just answer the 3 questions that are going to be on D2L by Friday. You don't need to, I don't want you to have to spend your entire holiday week monitoring the message boards. So just make sure that you answer those questions. No need to respond. You're free to respond if you want to. And I'm going to give you until Friday to answer those, to give you a little bit of a respite during this holiday week. So with that, I hope you have a great 4th of July, and I hope you're staying cool today. Thank you for a great productive week.